of solidarity with driver Bubba Wallace before the race. Drivers and pit crews from every team marching along with Wallace's number 43 car. The powerful moment necessary after a noose was found by a team member hanging inside Wallace's garage stall at the track on Sunday. Wallace, the circuit's only full-time black driver, emerging overcome, embracing NASCAR legend and team owner Richard Petty, who called the incident a filthy act. The drivers then bowing their heads and
the deal that happened yesterday, sorry I'm not wearing my mask, but I wanted to show whoever it was that you're not going to take away my smile, and I'm going to keep on going. I've been a part of this sport for a really long time. Still kind of a rookie, starting to figure this plate stuff out. We had a good race going today in our Victory Junction Chevrolet, but man, I know I should have won that damn race. We ran out of gas. Just the stars didn't align for us completely, but all in all, we won today. The pre-race deal. The pre-race deal was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to witness in my life. From all the supporters, from drivers, from crew members, everybody here, the badass fan base. Thank you guys for coming out here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for watching this edition of VOW. I'm your host, as always, Hendrix here, as we talk about Bubba Wallace, NASCAR's new folk hero. First thing first, join in the conversation using the hashtag VOW here on Connect. And thank you all for watching. And don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe is king. So we talk about Bubba Wallace, NASCAR's new folk hero. But one of the first African-American drivers, Bubba Wallace, is making changes. He wants to see that the NASCAR organization bans the Confederate flag. Well, Bubba Wallace got his wish when he lobbied for the flag being abolished. This.
Bubba Wallace taking a stand, the NASCAR star and league's only African-American driver at its highest level, advocating for social change in the sport, especially banning the Confederate flags at races. Wallace says that he wants to speak up for the people made uncomfortable by that flag. And joining me this morning is Bubba Wallace. Bubba, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. So I'm excited to talk to you. First, let's talk about the flag, because NASCAR in the past, they didn't really like the flag out there. Now they're banning it, and you say that that's something that needed to be done a long time ago.
Yeah, for sure. I think we tried to implement that a few years ago, and that's when I was kind of getting into the sport and kind of finding my way, getting my feet underneath me. But now, with everything that's going on in the world, and conversation start off with how people will see the flag and it makes them feel a certain type of way. And it's just like, let's simply just get it away from sporting events. And I just read an article from a good friend of mine, Marty Smith, ESPN, who said, to the fans that are upset by this move, we're not closing the door on you, we're opening a door to many others. And I thought that was very powerful. So, and that's exactly right.
You've been very vocal. You've been a strong voice for NASCAR. Are you getting a lot of support from other drivers?
Yeah, for sure. I've seen a couple articles where drivers are speaking up and being more vocal and using their platforms. So that's great. I think the more awareness we can bring to the situation, to the sport, will help change the sport, but not only the sport, but the world as well. So proud of our fellow competitors and colleagues for stepping up and being the brand ambassador that they are destined to be.
It's good to hear. And I know it's such a family affair, NASCAR is in general. I want to talk about this weekend. There's going to be fans in the stands, which is, I think this is huge. Are you excited? It's going to be military members, I know. But, are you ready?
Yeah, it's going to be a new change for us, somewhat getting back to normal, which it's funny, quarantine and everything seems normal now. So it's going to be a little while to get used to, but it's good to have fans back and start to kind of roll in and slow. Still take the precautionary measures for COVID-19 and make sure we get everybody in safely and enjoy the race safely as well. So we're excited about it. Homestead is probably one of every driver's favorite tracks for sure. It's a lot of fun. It's hot and slick. So it'll be a blast. So kudos to NASCAR for slowly getting the ball rolling on getting fans back into it and being like the lead sport for this.
And it's and for Fox especially, it's exciting for us. Real quick before I let you go, what is it like doing two races a week? What's that like?
My back's still sore, so we're still getting used to it quickly. It's good though. All we know is racing. When I was a kid, I was racing 5 times throughout the week, so nothing new. But for NASCAR it is, and I think that's going to see some future changes for sure to our schedule to have some midweek races. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, Bubba, it's again, NASCAR really led the way as far as getting the sport back up and running. It was just great to see something, a live sporting event in any capacity. So it's been great to watch you. And thank you so much for being here this morning, Bubba Wallace. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good luck this weekend, and take some Advil for your back. Be sure to tune into NASCAR's Dixie Vodka 400 race. That's this Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox.
Wallace making a lot of rounds this week, even media rounds. Wallace spoke to all the morning shows about this historical change on something that he lobbied to do with this.
And joining us now live from Concord, North Carolina, is NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace. And Bubba, thank you so much for getting up. You had a busy night. You were back at work, back on the track last night. Just tell us your emotions and being behind the wheel last night in Martinsville.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Robin. It's definitely an early morning and not much sleep going on, but a lot going on the last couple of weeks. And last night was really special. I thought, I sincerely thought that was the biggest race of my career, just with everything going on in the world and how we were standing up and making a positive message out of it, trying to create a new image for the sport of NASCAR, the sport that has been really good to me for the last, I don't know, 6-7 years of however long I've been a part of it. So it's been quite the journey. We had a really good run last night at Martinsville, my favorite racetrack. So had some good speed early on, and we kind of got behind there later in the race, but rallied back to a 11th place finish. So just really proud of the efforts of NASCAR for stepping up and wanting to be a part of change. And I know it's tough. They're in a tough situation. They've been in a tough situation for a really long time now, but I think this is the most crucial time, and the time is of the essence right now in the world that we're in the nation that we're in to create change and create unity and come together and really try to be more inclusive.
And I hope people take the time to see the video that you posted with your fellow drivers, a lot of your fellow drivers. It's very, very powerful, Bubba, showing their support, expressing their support for racial justice. What has been their reaction to NASCAR's latest ruling about the Confederate flag?
Yeah, I was actually, I don't know what time I went to bed, I think 2:30 this morning, just kind of catching up on everything on social media. Reading some drivers' comments about it and showing their support behind the sport and myself. So very gracious to have an elite group of drivers that are willing to stand up for what's right and be able to convey the message as well and push the envelope. So just shows the kind of respect that we have for each other. On the track, maybe not so much, but off the track, we definitely work together and come together as one.
Yeah, it's business when you're behind the wheel and on the track.
Absolutely.
Like that.
Yes,
and you heard it, you're right as it should be. And you heard in TJ's report, a lot of fans are not happy about this at all. Some are claiming they will not return to NASCAR. They will not attend a race. What is your message to them?
We live in a very selfish world. I'm selfish myself, and this is so much more than about ourselves. This is about our brothers and our sisters that are suffering through a lot. And you look at the Confederate flag and how, yes, it may mean heritage to most, but to a group that is in a lot of pain right now, the African American community is in a lot of pain. That's a symbol of hate, and it brings back so many bad memories, signs of oppression from way back when, and there's no good that comes with that flag, and that's the message we're kind of trying to get across. It's not about it's about a group of people that we are trying to bring together and make this world a better place for.
And as the only full-time Black driver in NASCAR, I want to know personally for you, these last couple of weeks, seeing so many people of so many different races taking to the streets and protesting for racial justice. What has that been like for you personally, Bubba?
Yeah, I'm just, we're in a tough time because there's a lot of destruction going on and just a lot of chaos. And while I'm all for peaceful protesting, our voices just haven't been heard. And I think up until this point, things are really starting to change. The time frame on that, I have no idea, but I think we got to continue to stay out there and fight for what's right. So I'm proud of the community coming together and from all backgrounds of coming together and trying to change the image of America and allow and make Black Lives Matter. And that's what's special. So it takes all of us, it takes all lives to come together and create change, and create unity, love and compassion for everybody, and understanding the problem to help understand that Black Lives Matter too.
Compassion, love, understanding. We saw that front and center on the hood of that car of yours, number 43. Hey, Bubba, thank you very much for what you're doing and for getting up and joining us this morning, and all the best to you going forward. You take care.
Absolutely.
Be safe.
I appreciate it.
Car now, as we mentioned earlier, the sport is taking a stand, banning the display of Confederate flags at all events. That flag had been a bit of a fixture in NASCAR's Southern culture for decades. And last night, Bubba Wallace, the only full-time African-American driver and the one who called for that change, took to the track at Martinsville Speedway in a stock car emblazoned with the hashtag Black Lives Matter before the race. Bubba talked about that big moment.
Probably the biggest race of my career right here. I'm excited about it. I'm ready for it. I haven't really slept much thinking about this race, just everything that's going into it, everything that's going on in the world, trying to race to change the world here.
Bubba Wallace joins us this morning. Good to see you again, Bubba. Thanks for your time. So
Absolutely. Good morning.
You called for the flag to be banned on Monday. NASCAR bans the flag on Wednesday. Were you surprised at all by the speed with which NASCAR moved? And what does it say to you about the moment that we're in that they did it so fast?
I wouldn't say surprised, though. We had started having those conversations starting last week, talking to Steve Phelps, the president of NASCAR, being very vocal with him. And he's a great friend of mine. And I told him that. That's how I started off the message. I was like, we're friends here. Don't let me cross the line. And if I do, we gotta work together to get through it, but we have got to get rid of this flag. I've seen too many comments and too many stories from first-time fans that have come to a race in the years past, and the first thing they say is, "I seen the Confederate flag flying, and it made me feel uncomfortable." And so it's just like, we shouldn't have anybody feeling uncomfortable. We should all, it's not a race thing. It's about walking into an event and feeling uncomfortable. That's it. If you felt uncomfortable, you would want change. And so I'm speaking up for the people that show up to the racetrack and feel that type of way. And so it's a lot of kudos to NASCAR. Hats off to everybody involved for making this happen and pushing the envelope, pushing the message across that we want change. It starts with us. We have to start from basically the roots and go from ground up and really implement what we're trying to say in our message.
For folks not familiar with the sport, it is a sport that is steeped in Southern culture. Got its start because guys were running liquor, so they had to outfit their cars to make them faster to get away from the cops. The flag, the races that I've been to as a fan and as a journalist, that flag, it's everywhere. It's on shirts. It's in the infield. How is the sport going to enforce this ban? Are you at all concerned that it's going to be a ban in name only?
No, I'm pretty sure that we'll take really strict measures to not allow this to happen. And if it doesn't, then there'll be another conversation that I will have. So not sure exactly NASCAR is planning on this. So I know fans are starting to be allowed to come back here in a couple weeks. So It'll be interesting to see. There's a lot of things unfolding for our sport and for our nation, really, for the world, and we're all kind of piecing it together day by day. So we'll just continue to push on and fight for what's right.
It should be noted that the lion's share of your fellow drivers seem to be on board with this, but there is the part-time truck series driver that came out overnight, said he is going to retire at the end of the season because of NASCAR's decision. What would you say to him if he's watching or listening? What would you say to other folks who have said for years now that the flag it's about heritage, not hate?
Yeah, I seen that comment, and I was kind of baffled by it, honestly. And I think he just solidified his career and no longer being a part of NASCAR. I would encourage NASCAR to really step up and look at that if it ever tries to reinstate. But yeah, I mean, I've seen a comment where to most it's a sign of heritage, but to a large group of people, it's a sign of hate and oppression and just a lot of negative and bad things that come to mind. And we're not saying that you can't ever fly it at your house. You can do whatever you want. But when it comes to a sporting event where we want all races, everybody to be included, inclusion is what we were trying to accomplish here. We're trying to unity, bring everybody together to enjoy a sporting event, cheer on their favorite driver, not be shy and introverted about or because of they see a Confederate flag flying. That shouldn't. They should be able to live life to the fullest with nothing holding them back. And if the flag's holding them back, then let's just take it down for the sporting event. We're not saying get rid of your life completely.
Bubba, you probably picked up a whole new slew of fans yesterday. You realize that, right?
Absolutely. I told everybody we had a lot of first-time watchers last night, which was super incredible. A lot from the African-American community that would never give NASCAR a chance. There's so many comments I read. They were all shocked at how NASCAR's approach to everything has really opened their eyes. And people asking, I think my favorite one was Alvin Kamara, former Tennessee Vols, plays for the Saints. He's asking when the next race was, and so he was tuning in. He was giving a race by race or a lap by lap updates. It was incredible. Everybody was tuned in last night, so it was a big watching party, and hopefully that's for the future as well. We encourage all backgrounds, all races to come and enjoy our crazy sport. It's action-packed from the drop of the green flag to the drop of the checker flag.
Bubba Wallace, trailblazer in NASCAR. Good to see you again, buddy. Thank you, Bubba. Good luck.
Thank you, brother. Have a good day.
Follower of yours and mine, Bubba. Yeah. Tim's question, which I thought was a great one. In all seriousness, can you guys offer some advice to people on how to start these difficult conversations? A lot of folks just don't know how to start them conversations. And I think that we just not only talking about conversations about race and between the black and the white communities, but also to our children. How do you start those conversations? And, you know, I think just being upfront and honest and sharing with your children your own values and what you would hope that they would choose to do in any situation is the way to go there. But let's go back to Tim's question of how do you start that difficult conversation about racism? How do I start that conversation? How does someone else that wants to reach out to you, Bubba, or wants to talk to you about that, start that conversation?
Well, I think it's simply as, hey, man, what are your thoughts on what's going on in the world? And they offer their advice. And I think that's where it kind of snowballs from there. Or not advice, their opinion.
Yeah.
If I'm tired of hearing about it, I don't want to talk about it, then that's the door just opened up for you to be like, why not? Why not? Why don't you want to talk about it? Are you tired of it? Why are you tired of it? Or if they're all, for it, then it's like, okay, well, let's come together and start this gospel of how we can get more people involved to help help push the narrative along. But it's all about you have to be the man in charge of being like, hey man, I just want to sit here and talk about today's world and society and how it's going. What is your thoughts? And you get that direction right there. You have two ways to go. You have a way to educate them, or a way to both y'all listen to each other and continue to grow together.
Ooh, that's so interesting. And about Tim's question, Dale, is one thing, how do we start the conversation? It's another thing to have it publicly. The conversation publicly is a completely different conversation. And so we're having a public conversation of sorts. It's just distant here. But how do you, speaking about it publicly and having that's what's fascinating about you and Ty Dillon.
Yeah, that was I literally had just pulled up to RCR. We were running some sim stuff, and he texted me. He said we were talking about the silence in the group chat. Him and I were very vocal about that. And he was like, "What do you think about going on Instagram Live?" And I sat there and I thought about it, and I was like, "Yeah, sure." I mean, I said the race is going on though. I might not get a lot of views, but that's besides the fact. And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Let me get home and get some dinner in, and let's do it." That was off the wall, off the cusp, non-scripted. Just he asked what my stories were, and I laid it on the line like I always do. I am 100% raw and real every time. And that's the way it went. And I thought it was powerful. Now I'm not, a guy that is very by the book and by the Bible. And when he brought out the prayer at the end, that was the most amazing thing ever. I thought that was incredible. And the way he was just sitting there and wanting to learn, he wanted to know how to be a better person.
Yeah.
Maybe he had troubles in his past. Who knows? Ty's always been a great guy. But he wanted to be even better than what he was. And there's so much respect into that, because when you think it doesn't bother me, it doesn't affect me at all, but I want to learn about it so I can be better and educate other people, that shows a lot of power, to Ty Dillon. And I appreciate that. I didn't know how long we were going to talk, what we were going to talk about. He just simply said, "I want to hear your stories, what you've gone through." And I was like, all right, sit back, because it hasn't been all good. And like I told you, Dale, my instance there of being told to get out of my car and have it searched. And it's funny on that instance, and I forgot to mention last night, I just got my car cleaned, and I had, I think, a race winning check just cashed. And I had all that money in my car, but we had cleaned it and we had taken it out. So imagine if the money was in there.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, man, those instances. And there's another instance, and the reason I talked to my mom today is I wanted to bring it up. I lost my cousin. I was 8 years old. This was a year before I started racing. I think I was 8. We were at my sister's basketball tournament. Can't remember where. I was running around the gym with all the other brothers and sisters there. And all of a sudden I hear a scream, like the worst scream that you want to hear. Not like somebody scared you scream. Like something bad had just happened. And I look over and I see my mom running out the door. And we had just found out my cousin was shot and killed by a police officer, unarmed. And so it was, I was young. I didn't understand it. We lost a family member. But now seeing everything come full circle, I totally get it now. They had just left, she just told me, they just left somewhere, a football game or something. He was 18. They all went to a gas station here in Knoxville, Tennessee, and playing loud music. There's a whole crowd, hangout spot. After football games, we would go to the McDonald's right here down the street and all hang out, blast music. I had the system in my car, so I was blasting the music, but never thought about, that I was bothering somebody. But the store clerk, who happened to be white, felt threatened that there was more African Americans and that something bad was going to happen. So she called the cops. And the police officer had ordered my cousin Sean to put his hands up, and he did. And then that officer walked away, and he went to grab his phone to call his mom because he was scared, and was shot and killed from the other police officer. So, and it's like, all because people were having a good time, not bothering somebody, but it somehow people are afraid. Why are you afraid of black people? That's just the thing I don't understand. Like, we're minding our own business. We're having a good time, and somebody's life was taken, and it happened to my family member. And I've never shared that story. I remember in 4th grade, I was crying. I got let out of class for it. But now, truly understanding it definitely hurts a lot more now that I can decipher what really went on into it. Said he was reaching for a gun and wasn't. So, that's tough. And, I've dealt with that. That's indirectly, but it's family. And I've dealt with my struggles, directly of getting pulled up at a stoplight, like I talked about last night, and having guns drawn, not pointed at me, but they're out of their holster ready to do something. And that moment, being pulled out in front of and turning on your hazards is a sign that you're slow and I need to go around you. But when it's undercover cops, you can't do that. And when it's tinted windows, they don't know what to expect, so they're ready for anything. So one wrong move, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. And then the comments after, and this is where we can help so many people. It's the comments that they made towards me that pissed me off the most. Can you afford this car? This is a nice car.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, yes, sir, I can. And what I wanted to say is, yeah, I'll have you one here Monday. I'll have your mama here one on Tuesday. I'll have the rest of your family here on Wednesday, because that's how much money I make. But I didn't. I let it go, because one wrong move, because I'm black, could have had me on the pavement saying I can't breathe. So who knows?
That's the point that I've sort of learned, is that, there's a lot of people that would respond to what you just said as, bad things happen to everybody in the course of a lifetime. Everybody's going to be mistreated. Everybody's going to do that. And there's truth to that, for sure. There is truth to that. We all have been mistreated at one time or another.
Yep.
But we haven't feared for our lives.
Nope.
Like, there are things that happen that you shouldn't have to wonder about getting shot. And there's the difference, right? I get pulled over. It's happened a bunch. Not once did it even enter my mind the things that have to enter your mind and other people's minds that have to deal with this. That's their reality. Your reality and my reality are not the same realities.
Nope.
For better or worse, it's not the same. And so that's where I think we lack empathy. But there is a big distinction in being mistreated and fearing for your life.
Yep.
And I think that, a lot of the expression that we see going on around our country right now, it gets to that point when you fear for your life. Don't you agree?
Yep. I agree 100%. You said it right. There's a big gap in between being mistreated and fearing for your life.
I think we're seeing fears for life. And fortunately, you're seeing a lot of other people joining that. People that don't necessarily fear for their lives. People that are privileged. People that do. They're realizing the problem with that. It's just a problem. We shouldn't be this fearful. And if you are, well, let's not nitpick why you are. Let's listen and say, okay, how can we fix the fear, the cause of the fear?
Goes back to listening.
Sorry that Bubba Wallace sparked with change, sparked with emotion, that the flag had to go. But Bubba Wallace wasn't the only one.
We move on now to that powerful show of solidarity today after a noose was found hanging in the garage of Bubba Wallace, NASCAR's only full-time driver who was black. Today, drivers and pit crew members escorted Bubba Wallace and his car to the front of the grid. Wallace had strongly pushed NASCAR to take that step to ban Confederate flags at races, and they did. Tonight, the FBI is now investigating, and Wallace now has extra security. Here's Victor Akendo.
Tonight at Talladega Superspeedway, an incredible show of solidarity with driver Bubba Wallace before the race. Drivers and pit crews from every team marching along with Wallace's number 43 car. The powerful moment necessary after a noose was found by a team member hanging inside Wallace's garage stall at the track on Sunday. Wallace, the circuit's only full-time black driver, emerging overcome, embracing NASCAR legend and team owner Richard Petty, who called the incident a filthy act. The drivers then bowing their heads in prayer.
And as we stand together against racism, by your Holy Spirit, guide us to true liberty and justice for all.
Team officials say the noose was found by a member of Wallace's team who immediately reported it. The FBI and the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division now investigating along with NASCAR.
You want to make sure that Bubba is safe, and we have stepped up security.
Wallace, undaunted, writing, "As my mother told me today, they are just trying to scare you. This will not break me. I will not give in, nor will I back down." The hate-fueled attack coming about 2 weeks after the Confederate flag was banned from all NASCAR events.
There's no good that comes with that flag. And that's the message we're kind of trying to get across.
That charge for change boldly led by Wallace, who emblazoned his car with the Black Lives Matter hashtag. Sunday's race was postponed due to bad weather. 5,000 fans were welcome. The Confederate flag was not, but plenty of them outside, and even one flying above, those words reading "Defund NASCAR." Tonight, these words on the infield: "I stand with Bubba." NASCAR officials have said that the garage did have surveillance cameras, and we also know that there was only a limited amount of people that would have that kind of access. Because of the coronavirus, NASCAR's president says he wants the people responsible banned for life.
The entire garage area,
in a sign of solidarity,
has rallied around Bubba Wallace
and a rejection of racism. NASCAR drivers walk alongside Bubba Wallace's car, number 43, overcome with emotion.
A despicable act by someone.
Less than 24 hours earlier, a noose was discovered in Wallace's garage stall, prompting this response: "I will not give in, nor will I back down. I will continue to proudly stand for what I believe in." NASCAR confirming to NBC News that no fans have access to that garage, only a few essential personnel. The organization vowing to investigate and declaring, "We are angry and outraged and cannot state strongly enough how seriously we take this heinous act." The FBI's already on scene tonight, with the U.S. Attorney in Birmingham investigating possible violations of federal law.
Let's go shut these haters up.
Today's race, the first opportunity for general admission fans to get back on the track, and also the first test of a Confederate flag ban, championed by Wallace and unveiled by NASCAR June 10th.
It's not a race thing. It's about walking into an event and feeling uncomfortable. That's it.
Fans on their personal property failing that test. Confederate flags flap next to pop-up gift shops and on top of Winnebagos. Wallace's fellow drivers voicing zero tolerance for any of it.
I cannot believe the hate that someone can have in their heart.
Tonight, drivers banding together. Bubba Wallace standing anywhere but alone.
NASCAR's president Steve Phelps said he was the first person to talk to Bubba Wallace about the noose. He said it was a difficult moment for him. It was a difficult moment for me. He also said whoever is responsible for this act will be banned from the sport for life.
Thanks, Vince. And here's Bubba Wallace walking out to salute the fans. Jamie?
And Bubba got out of his car, grabbed a drink of water, and he sees some supporters up here in the stands. Of course, we got 5,000 fans here today. Bubba, don't know if you can hear me, but what a day. NASCAR rallies around you. You got fans in the stands.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
And Bubba, what a run for you today. Led the field. How do you describe just today, this moment?
This is probably the most badass moment right here. It's been tough. It's been hell. Really, I wouldn't say hell. It's just been hectic, you know, carrying this weight and carrying this burden. I wouldn't really say burden either. I'm proud to stand where I'm at and carry a new face. Look at this. First time right here from Atlanta. That is so cool. The sport is changing. The deal that happened yesterday, sorry I'm not wearing my mask, but I wanted to show whoever it was that you're not going to take away my smile. And I'm going to keep on going. I've been a part of this sport for a really long time. I'm still kind of a rookie, starting to figure this plate stuff out. We had a good race going today in our Victory Junction Chevrolet, but man, I know I should have won that damn race. We ran out of gas. Just the stars didn't align for us completely, but all in all, we won today. The pre-race deal. The pre-race deal was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to witness in my life. From all the supporters, from drivers, from crew members, everybody here, the badass fan base. Thank you guys for coming out here. This is truly incredible, and I'm proud to be a part of this sport, Jimmy. Like I said earlier, I got a long way to go, and we'll keep on trucking. Another top 15 for us. We'll take it, and we'll just go on to Pocono, right? Okay, Pocono. So, hey, I'm still smiling. Long week ahead of me, probably a couple weeks, probably a couple months. Courtney's going to lay some interviews on me, so I'll be ready for Pocono, though.
Thanks, Bubba. Well done.
Bubba Wallace, 14th today.
Let's see what you people had to say about whether the flag, whether some NASCAR fans were not happy with this change. Some were. Well, let's go to what you people had to say about the historic change NASCAR made, where they banned and removed the NASCAR Confederate flags of all events going forward. Take a look.
Alan, first, detail for me the circumstances that led to your interest in NASCAR and your attendance at the race today.
So really, initially, Bubba used to always come up to Tennessee when I was in school at Tennessee, so I kind of was familiar with it for a little bit before, you know, the obvious circumstances that took place now, you know, with him kind of making that stand and then NASCAR eliminating the Confederate flag. But, you know, it's one of those sports where I didn't too much about it. And, you know, I would flip it on and, you know, kind of watch for a little bit and just be confused and, you know, kind of like switch it off. But being here today, like I'm learning a lot, and it's definitely like a different experience in person.
It's a lot to take in the first time. I remember, man, it's a whole lot to take in. You noted the decision on the Confederate flag. What was your perception of NASCAR before they decided to ban the Confederate flag, and what is your perception of NASCAR now that they did?
Man, I was talking to some people earlier, and honestly, I didn't know how deeply rooted the Confederate flag was, like within the actual sport. Like, I didn't know that it was branded just like so openly, you know, just around these events and these tracks and things like that. So, you know, not knowing before and then seeing what they did after, you know, with the history of the sport and it being, you know, rooted in the sport, it's amazing. You know, I talked to Steve Phelps earlier, and like just, you know, with them being able to, I guess, step away from that, that's a huge step in flipping the script and, you know, to just rewriting the narrative on what this sport is and what it stands for.
Just this might be redundant, so forgive me. What role did that decision play in you being there today and engaging in the sport?
Well, honestly, I've never really had an opportunity to come to a race at all. So, you know, this is an opportunity that I was going to take advantage of for sure. But, you know, that's just icing on the cake, you know, with where the world is right now and what's going on, and you know, I mean, it's just it's even more of a I would say like even more of a blessing to be able to be here and soak this up and you know what it means to so many people. I mean, there's obviously some people that are against that decision of removing the flag, and I think there's way more people that are for that decision, because I think there's a certain stigma on the type of fans that support this sport. And you know, there's some bad ones, and I don't think the bad ones represent all of the good ones.
I see you're wearing Bubba gear. You're repping your guy. And I know you guys have a relationship from back in your days in Knoxville. How would you describe what he's done during this movement over the last couple of weeks for NASCAR and what he's carried and his courage?
Yeah, I think you said it right there. I mean, courage. You know, just being able to be so secure in yourself to be able to stand out on the front line. I mean, being the only African American driver, you know, not afraid to stand up for what's right. I mean, I think it says a lot about his character, and then the support he's getting from other drivers that maybe was comfortable speaking out before this time. You know, they have kind of like a platform, you know, coming up behind Bubba to be able to speak their mind, whether, you know, they get backlash from other guys, or if they, you know, get backlash from the community. I mean, it's just what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And, you know, Bubba's I think he's a testament to that.
Kneeling during the national anthem, obviously a hot topic ever since Cap, but now with this current movement, a lot of your peers are discussing that. NASCAR official Kirk Price at Atlanta, he knelt, and he's a veteran. So I wonder, Alvin, what's your stance on kneeling during the anthem?
I mean, honestly, when my rookie year coming in, I knelt during one of my, I think it was my third or second NFL game. And, you know, after that, there was a lot of backlash, and, you know, we ended up having to stand. You know, we knelt before the game and then had to stand after. And, you know, it's a touchy subject, but like I said before, now where the world is shifting in the climate of you know, social injustice and race and, you know, all these things, a plethora of things that are going on, I think, you know, people are taking the time to understand what the meaning of kneeling during that time is. You know, I don't think it's not to disrespect the flag, but it's to stand up for what you believe in as far as the social injustices that are going on, like I said, and you know, the fight for equality when it comes to race. And you know, it's just it's a touchy subject, but I'm happy that a lot of people, there's a lot more attention being drawn to it, and a lot of people understanding and taking the time to understand what's going on.
I know you got to hustle, so I'll ask you one more. What would your message be to any of your peers who might have had some reservations about going to a NASCAR race based on what you've experienced and the people there and whatnot? What would that message be?
Obviously, we're in Corona protocol right now, so I'm not even getting the full experience, but I'm enjoying it. Like, just being here and seeing what it takes, like what goes into like putting on this whole event, and like the stress and the skill on the drivers, and it's so much. Like, the atmosphere is crazy, so I can't even imagine it being, you know, just full out 160,000 people here, and, you know, everything 100 miles per hour full go. Like, me personally, I would say come. If you have an opportunity to come, because it's like it's a different experience. I can honestly say I've never experienced something like this, and it's not even open. It's not even 10,000 people here, probably, or 20,000 people here, but it's still a great environment.
What conversations have you had with your quarterback, Drew Brees, over the past couple of weeks?
We've kind of already addressed that. I'm not really going. Yeah.
Pro driver Bubba Wallace spoke out Monday night. NASCAR has decided to ban Confederate flags from all of their events. First, here is what Bubba said on CNN on Monday.
We're trying to figure out next steps, and my next step would be to get rid of all Confederate flags. There should be no individual that is uncomfortable showing up to our events to have a good time with their family that feels some type of way about something they have seen, an object they have seen flying. No one should feel uncomfortable when they come to a NASCAR race. So it starts with Confederate flags. Get them out of here. They have no place for them. The narrative on that before is, you know, I wasn't bothered by it, but that I don't speak for everybody else. Yeah. I speak for myself. What I'm chasing is checker flags. And that was kind of my narrative, but diving more into it and educating myself, people feel uncomfortable with that. People talk about that. That's the first thing they bring up. So there's going to be a lot of angry people that carry those flags proudly, but it's time for change. We have to change that. And I encourage NASCAR, and we will have those conversations to remove those flags.
Yeah, so NASCAR heard Bubba, and Wednesday afternoon they announced they were banning the flag. So they said the presence of the Confederate flag at NASCAR events runs contrary to our commitment to providing a welcoming and inclusive environment for all fans, our competitors, and our industry, bringing people together around a love for racing and the community that it creates is what makes our fans and sport special.
So Bubba was on the track last night, just a couple hours after NASCAR announced this. Here's his initial reaction to Fox Sports, and then he was on Good Morning America this morning. Check it out.
What's your take on the announcement that took place a little while ago from NASCAR?
Sorry. Bravo. Props to NASCAR and everybody involved. This has been a stressful couple weeks, and this is no doubt the biggest race of my career tonight. And it couldn't be at a more perfect place where I got my first win in the Truck Series in 2013, followed it up with that second one in 2014. So I'm excited about tonight, man. There's a lot of emotions, on the racetrack and off the racetrack that are riding with us, but tonight is something special. Today's been special. Again, hats off to NASCAR. Phelps and I have been in contact a lot, just trying to figure out what steps are next, and that was a huge pivotal moment for the sport. A lot of backlash, but it creates doors and allows the community to come together as one.
A lot of fans are not happy about this at all. Some are claiming they will not return to NASCAR. They will not attend a race. What is your message to them?
We live in a very selfish world. I'm selfish myself, and this is so much more than about ourselves. This is about our brothers and our sisters that are suffering through a lot. And you look at the Confederate flag and how, yes, it may mean heritage to most, but to a group that is in a lot of pain right now, the African American community is in a lot of pain. That's a symbol of hate, and it brings back so many bad memories, signs of oppression from way back when. And there's no good that comes with that flag, and that's the message we're kind of trying to get across. It's not about you. It's about a group of people that we are trying to bring together and make this world a better place for.
Yeah, a lot of support. Sadie says they finally did the right thing. Fashion Stylist says about time. Afro says about time. Good for them for doing it. Ubelski says the flag represents racism. It's a group of people that left the United States because they were mad. They couldn't have their slaves. They literally used the same constitution as the United States.
Yeah, I think people just in general are uncomfortable when there's change. People don't like the idea of change in general, and they don't like pieces of their history being taken away in their minds. I didn't think that people acknowledged the Confederate flag. People that are into the Confederate flag, I didn't realize that they were going to the games being like, "Yes, that flag is up.
I know.
Thank the Lord, I'm going to have so much fun watching this NASCAR game." I didn't know that was that was the same. But I just think people in general just don't like change, and I think. Right now, we're having this open discussion. Finally, everyone is just talking about truly implementing things that make people feel inclusive and equal. And I think this is the time to really assess everything, our entertainment, our sports, our workplace, our home life, everything, so that everyone is treated fair. It's too long where people have been discriminated against and treated poorly. The time is now to do it. And I'm happy Bubba spoke up. And also, Bubba is very cute. I did not know Bubba was cute. I'm going to just follow him on Instagram right now. Is he married? I don't want to disrespect anybody.
I don't know. It's interesting. You often wonder, parents have dreams for their own children. And I don't know what else he could have done in life other than being, a NASCAR driver, maybe pro fisherman with Bubba Wallace. But he looks like he's doing real well. I will say this. And again, we talked about this yesterday, which was, with the issue of Gone with the Wind, okay? Nobody is saying you can't watch Gone with the Wind. That's not what the issue is. Nobody is telling these people that they cannot own a Confederate flag and hang it in their garage and do whatever they want to do with it. They're just saying at this event that we run and you buy a ticket for, you can't bring that in here. To me, this should be lower as far as the outrage level than if they told patrons that they couldn't wear flip-flops. Like, that's how much of a non-issue this should be about bringing a Confederate flag to an event that you are not running, that you bought a ticket for. It's like dress code anywhere else. The fact that they've been able to do this for as many years as they have, is quite shocking to me. But I don't understand the sort of outrage. I was reading an article this morning where there's another NASCAR driver who says 2020 is going to be his last season over this, and it's not like he cares about the Confederate flag, but you're pitting one group against another group and everything else. Like, I cannot believe how incredibly passionate people are about things like what you can bring into an event that you buy a ticket for. It's wild to me.
Yeah, it's dumbfounding. Like you've talked about, Roz, the idea of removing the national anthem from sporting events, because why do they play the national anthem? Like, it's that kind of stuff. Why were people bringing this flag to watch some cars race?
Because it's attached to their RV. And don't get me wrong, I'm not down on like NASCAR fans. And if that's your thing, that's your thing. And there's a lot of good people who sit and watch those races. In those hundreds of thousands of people that they get, those are passionate people, and they do it as families, everything else. I'm just saying that there's a few people in there where they have decided to die on the hill of the Confederate flag and not even being able to hang it on their own house. They're dying on the hill because they can't bring it into a NASCAR event, which to me is just a why fight that fight.
Insane. Put it on your yard and let me know how it goes.
Exactly.
Since you want all the smoke, put it on your yard now. Let's see how that goes.
Because even what Bubba says, like the idea, like he knows that some people just see it as their heritage, but even people that don't see the Confederate flag, they don't think they see the Confederate flag as any kind of symbol of racism. Can you not recognize and who you're grouping yourself in with at this point? If you don't see that flag as racist, you see what the perception is of that flag is. So maybe just time to give it up. If you really don't think you're a racist, then maybe keep the flag at home.
And my thing is, like, if something doesn't offend you, you can't say that it's not allowed to offend someone else or tell them how they can and can't feel. It's always very odd to me how that's a thing. And it's very common. You see it on social media all the time. People being like, that's not offensive. That's not this and that and the other. Well, could it apply to you? Could it be offensive to you? That's always the question. But yeah, put it on your yard.
And like when I was growing up, I grew up in small town southern Ontario, and we don't get taught American history for maybe one semester in all of your high school. And that flag to me growing up was two things. It was the top of the General Lee on Dukes of Hazzard, right? And then it was it was a symbol you would see on T-shirts for some rock bands that you like. That's all I knew of it as. And I had the General Lee. I was a huge fan of Dukes of Hazzard, and I had shirts that had that on it with like a skull and something else on it because it was cool and it was rock and roll, because I had no idea. And now that you know, and I would never go near it because obviously, but the problem is that these people already know, and that what they're doing is a complete choice. And that's the sort of problem. And I know if I'm NASCAR, I'm like, hey, listen, sort of don't want you here anyway.
Right.
All right, guys. Got a new iPhone here, trying it out, testing out, because the last one, my volume and stuff was kind of low a little bit in the beginning of videos and stuff. And thought I'd just go ahead and upgrade to another one. And today's topic, Bubba Wallace wants all the Confederate flags removed in NASCAR. I'm not a big fan of this. I'm not a big fan of what he said. History's history. He didn't have a problem with it last year. He didn't have a problem with it year before. There's a lot of things I'm sure a lot of drivers would like to have their own opinions about, and this and that. Let NASCAR be its NASCAR. Let fans be their fans. Nobody was bothering him. And, Kyle Larson come out and he made a racial slur, and people dumped him like dogs. And, if you're going to be fair to everybody, you got to be fair to everybody. My opinion on it is Bubba Wallace is kind of being saying, hey, people that flies Confederate flags are racist. So he's pretty much saying that people like me, who has one, is a racist person, and I'm not. So, I think NASCAR needs to look into that. I mean, the guy's getting attention. Last week he got attention, and now he's taking it overboard. And that's just my opinion. And what's next? Is the Goodyear tires going to be racist next? Are they going to have to take the name Goodyear off the tires? I mean, it's just getting to be ridiculous. And I hope Bubba Wallace sees this. I respected Bubba Wallace. I thought, maybe if he had a great car, he could, run good and be competitive. I never had a problem with him. But sometimes people say stuff like that, and it's going to end up hurting him in the long run, because whenever he goes to these tracks, he's going to get booed when the fans get back. They're going to boo him to death. And I don't know. I just don't understand. I don't understand why people has to bring up trouble. Let it be. I mean, our sport's already hurting. We lost tons of fans after Atlanta. And now they're wanting to keep pushing it. I think NASCAR needs to sit down with these drivers and have a little talk with them. Because you're taking the fans, you're making the fans that's watched you for years feel like that we have done something wrong. And we haven't. The ones that's kept watching's kept you guys in business. And you're going to run off everybody. And whenever everybody's gone, what do you got then? So, my take is on this, people got freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want to. Bubba's got the right to say what he thinks. But he's also got to look about what's this going to do for the sport. The sport is what we need, and we need right now. It's the downward spiral. And we're going to end up losing it if we don't straighten up and take care of our own. I mean, Bubba Wallace is welcome into the community. Everybody I know likes him. I've never seen many people say anything bad about Bubba Wallace. I've got tons of NASCAR buddies out there. Ain't nobody racist. Nobody said anything about it. They all fly the Confederate flag. I mean, to me, it's a media thing, and he knows if he can get media, he can get his name out there and make himself look big. If he wants to do that, let him do it, but it's going to hurt him in the long run. And if NASCAR says, hey, nobody can't have a Confederate flag on their truck or in the infields or anything like that, they're hurting. So it's up to them. I hope they make the right call. Because people are starting to get fed up with it big time. I mean, I've let it go for a while, and why can't everybody be nice? Why does people have to run their mouth to get attention and try to be the great big man? Come on. I've lost respect for Bubba. I will not pull for him, and don't hate him. Don't wish no harm on him. Just, if you're going to disrespect me, then I will not pull for you, Bubba Wallace. So, just my take on it. I hope you guys don't get mad at me. If you do, you do. That's the way I look at it. Hope everybody be safe. Remember, be nice to everybody and be kind. And we're all equal and we're all one. And let's try to be that way. See you later.
Drivers and crew members walked in a powerful show of solidarity at the Talladega Superspeedway after a noose was left in the garage of NASCAR's lone black driver, Bubba Wallace. Wallace was overcome by all the support. The sport is changing. The deal that happened yesterday, sorry I'm not wearing my mask, but I wanted to show whoever it was that you're not going to take away my smile. And I'm going to keep on going. Joining us now is Robert Edelstein. He's a NASCAR writer for TV Guide magazine. He's also the author of NASCAR Legends, memorable men, moments, and machines in racing history. Robert, it's great to have you. As someone who's been covering NASCAR for 25 years, what did that moment mean? It meant so much. It's really the culmination of a sport that's been around for 70 years. It's really had this issue for a long time. And now we have all the drivers, and the drivers are really the heroes. They're the representatives not only of their brands, but of the brand of NASCAR. To have that kind of solidarity behind Bubba Wallace was amazing. 2 weeks ago, you wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post in which you were skeptical, basically, that the Confederate flag ban would work. You said basically, I'll believe it when I don't see them. So, do you feel differently now? I feel slightly differently only because I feel like what happened with the noose in Bubba Wallace's stall is the kind of thing that I feel that whoever did this probably thought it was going to have one effect, and I think it's going to have an entirely different effect. And I think that effect is going to really increase this kind of solidarity. And so I believe there's a better chance of it happening, but once again, we're in the midst of this crazy season where we've got no fans. Is it going to happen? Is this kind of momentum going to continue? I hope so, because it's time. Didn't we see a couple thousand fans trickle back yesterday? I mean, aren't we already testing this hypothesis? Weren't there some fans in the stadium at the Speedway yesterday? There were, and there are going to be increasing numbers of fans at different races throughout the season. It's almost like in this situation, it's going to be the perfect test to see if they can make sure that they can have this happen. And then we're just going to have to wait for next season also to see if they can make sure it happens. But it's a controversial thing. The more you talk about it, the more the controversy gets stirred, and obviously it touched a nerve with someone. But I mean, the fact that you have covered this for so long.
Fishing boat is named Catch 23.
Really?
And that's not even
You're
the
not
most
lying. Oh my God,
impressive
it is.
part of this story. He and his crew reeled in a 442.3 pound blue marlin at a North Carolina fishing tournament. And this is all happening really near where Jordan grew up in Wilmington, North Carolina. Got 205 boats vying for $3.3 million in prize money. Jordan's boat finishing Tuesday in 6th place.
Ow!
Even with that megalodon.
What?
The Big Rock Blue Marlin tournament runs through Saturday. And listen, fish fan, I understand that megalodon is a different fish from a blue marlin. I was just,
That's like
it was hyperbole.
Shark. Got it.
It was
Okay.
hyperbole.
It is, though, time for fish stories with Randy and Nicole. And I, on my honeymoon, because that's what you do on a honeymoon, we went fishing. Check out our haul.
You went fishing on your honeymoon?
We did, in Fiji. It was really cool. Like they all went off at the same time. Pot of tuna. It was tasty.
You prepared
That's a
pictures.
mahi.
You
That is a
prepared
mahi.
Pictures for this.
Yeah, I did. It's called being a professional.
All right, listen, my experience with fish, I use Swedish fish to bribe my 2-year-old to not cry at swim class. So
Totally the same.
Same.
Totally. Hey, NASCAR is back tonight with a race in Martinsville, home of that very weird hot dog. Still no fans allowed, but that is going to change soon. Starting June 14th in Miami and then June 21st in Talladega, fans will be screened entering the track, social distancing will be required, and no one will have infield access. And it is something that we have seen so many times in the infield of NASCAR races that is now the subject of talk. It is the Confederate flag. Sports Center on the Road is presented by Rocket Mortgage, by Quicken Loans, and that is where we now go to find our Marty Smith, who joins us now from Martinsville. Bubba Wallace is the only black full-time driver in the series. He's now pushing for NASCAR to completely remove the Confederate flag when it appears at tracks. What's been the response?
Nicole, good afternoon. Ryan Blaney, who will lead the field to the green flag this evening here at Martinsville Speedway, is one of Bubba Wallace's best friends. He participated in a peaceful protest in Charlotte recently, and after the race at Atlanta last Sunday said it disgusts him when someone is judged by the pigment of their skin versus their character. He also said he doesn't want to see Confederate flags at NASCAR races because they make people feel uncomfortable. Again, Bubba Wallace, one of Blaney's best friends, and as you stated, he too is calling for the eradication of Confederate flags at NASCAR races in appearances this week on CNN, ESPN, and right here at the racetrack. Following an emotionally and physically exhausting week, during which he helped lead an unprecedented push among the NASCAR Cup Series driving corps to stand for racial equality and social justice, Bubba Wallace is calling for greater change.
No one should feel uncomfortable when they come to a NASCAR race. So it starts with Confederate flags. Get them out of here. They have no place for them.
In the summer of 2015, then NASCAR President Brian France said he considered the Confederate flag an insensitive symbol and said the sport would work to eliminate its presence. NASCAR Executive Vice President Darrell Wolf addressed the sport's stance on the Confederate flag Tuesday.
I can tell you that we're really proud of the sport and the moment that we had on Sunday. I thought that was a really powerful thing that happened. But what I can tell you this is the sport's position on inequalities and social and racial injustices has not changed. And our commitment to that issue remains firm and unwavering. We want all to feel welcome at our events in the future.
NASCAR is going to continue to make changes, and I'm sure they'll look at what flags they want to fly in the infield. I know if you look at all the haulers each and every weekend, they've got American flags flown all over the top of them. That's what we salute when we do the national anthem, and I'm supportive of whatever they want to change.
You hear somebody like Bubba talk about how he feels about it, and it wakes you up a bit. So I think NASCAR is going to do the right thing there, and I stand with what they come up with.
So people won't come to races of African American descent. They won't come to races simply because the Confederate flag is flying. It's about other people. It's about coming together and treating your neighbors like they're your brothers and sisters. So if it makes them feel uncomfortable, let's just take it down. Let's just get rid of it. That's what we're fighting for. We don't feel welcomed in this world. The African American community does not feel welcome. And I think we can help that by removing Confederate flags. If it bothers them, then let's make that change.
Bubba Wallace drives the famed number 43 car for Richard Petty Motorsports. And on Blackout Tuesday, the marketing department there at RPM was having a meeting about the paint scheme for this race. They had not sold sponsorship for this race, and they were batting ideas around about what they might do with the way the car looked on the racetrack tonight. Well, it was broached. Maybe we should support a foundation. And that's when Bubba Wallace said, why don't we just get right to the root of what's going on in America right now with a Black Lives Matter paint scheme? That's what Bubba will run tonight here at Martinsville, with a white fist and a black fist embraced inside one another. On the hood and on the rear quarter panels, a camouflage peace sign, which is what the legend 7-time champion Richard Petty asked to have on that paint scheme, Nicole.
Absolutely. Bravo to the team and Bubba Wallace for speaking out. You can see the race tonight. Green flag from Martinsville is just after 7 Eastern. Thanks, Marty.
The Confederate flag at all events and at all affiliated properties. One driver said he was done with the sport at the end of the season. As a result, driver Ray Cicerelli announced on his Facebook page, which has since been removed, that he intends on ending his career when the season is over, writing this publicly. Well, it's been a fun ride and dream come true. If this is the direction NASCAR is headed, we will not participate after the 2020 season is over. I don't believe in kneeling during anthem nor taking people right to fly whatever flag they love. I could care less about the Confederate flag, but there are people that do, and it doesn't make them a racist. All you are doing is expletive one group to cater to another, and I ain't spend the money. We're to participate in any political BS, so everything is for sale. Marty Smith back with us. As I mentioned earlier, he's covered NASCAR intimately since the 90s. Marty, thank you again for staying here with us. Marty, what's your reaction to that statement, and do you expect to see more of this amongst the fans?
If Ray Cicerelli, whom I had not heard of before that post, wants to pack up his ball and take it on to the house, that's his prerogative. This is the United States of America. He has that right. But if that, and quite frankly, if that is his perspective, then he can pack up his ball and take it on down the highway. For today's sporting landscape, today's entertainment landscape, today's human landscape, there's just no room for anything that makes anyone feel disparaged or makes anyone feel lesser or uncomfortable. And so NASCAR's decision, maybe it will mean Ray Cicerelli retires from the sport. Enjoy it, man. I hope you enjoy whatever you're going to do in the future, because there's 1,000 race car drivers at the late model level and lower who would be more than happy to take that spot.
Dominique, would you like to go, or
I'll be happy to go. I was deferring to you because it's normally your show, but I will take it. I think it's interesting. I think I'll agree with most of what Marty says, but I'll take it a slight step further. Is I don't think it's all about making people feel comfortable. I do think that's part of it, and I don't think it's about not offending certain people. I think that's part of it, but I think, as Max put yesterday, that flag was the flag of a rebellion. A flag that represented people who wanted to destroy the country that we now live in. So to me, it's mind-blowing that it still hangs around and it still exists in any level. But I do think also that to only characterize it as making people feel comfortable and making people feel welcome, like, I think that's an important thing, especially from a business standpoint. But to only characterize it as that, I think kind of misunderstands what the flag fully represents and what people who wave that flag. I can't imagine, like, I can go through the list, and I don't want to be hyperbolic, but I can go through the list of many other countries or organizations specifically, that have had attacks on American grounds. And I can't imagine for the life of me anybody feeling comfortable going to a sporting event, a NASCAR event no less, and bringing that flag up. Like, there's so many people who I think could point to different things and say this and change what it means. This flag represents X to me, so I want to wave it here. Obviously, it's America. You have the right to fly whatever flag you want to fly. However, we have to fully understand the history, and I think that some people want to hide behind saying what it means to them when just to absolve themselves of this connection to what it actually stood for. And not only did it stand for the subjugation of black people, it stood for the destruction of this country that so many of them believed. Like, it's ironic, and it just kind of highlights the stupidity of Ray Ciccarelli when he goes through that as if he's saying, I don't want to live in this, or I don't want to work in this place. And he suggests that. I don't remember all the quotes in that terrible post, but it seemed to me like he was suggesting that this is a change to the America that he knows and America that he appreciates, and an organization that exists in that America. How in the world can you stand on the ground of wanting to wave a flag that wanted to destroy that? Go ahead, Max.
No, Marty, I love the way you've been covering this and bringing this to a mainstream audience. I do think that when it is said, no one should ever feel uncomfortable. This is like, it's a little different on a college campus, but I don't believe in safe spaces in terms of ideas. I like to feel uncomfortable with different opinions and different ideas, and that's America, and that's the kind of place in which I'd like to live. I don't think the Confederate flag simply falls under that category, although it does fall under that category. I think there's a more specific category that excludes it from using it, participating in public life in America, which is it's a flag of treason and of racism and of pro-slavery positions. Look at the seating southern states. Like, look what each one of them stated, first paragraph, about why they were fighting. And the fact that subsequent generations turned it into, and it was a willful act on the part of previous generations, turned the Confederate flag simply into a more generic kind of Southern pride thing for them is bogus. I'm not saying that dynamic doesn't exist. That's not a good enough reason to fly it. It's based on misinformation and disinformation. In other words, propaganda intentionally put out to get people to believe things that are untrue. And leftover racism. So I think it's not simply that we can't do anything that makes anyone feel uncomfortable in public events ever. I think in this case, this rises to a level that other things don't. You can respond in 1 second, Marty, if you don't mind. I'd like to just make because I wanted to engage with that point. We've heard of liberal guilt, right? And liberal guilt can actually be very useful in terms of progressing things. I think this is an example, this driver who doesn't want to participate, if this is going to happen now, in conservative guilt. And by liberal and conservative, I don't mean politically. I mean in terms of one's personal constitution. Now, that obviously will influence oftentimes their political ideas, but I mean personally, whether someone wants to be progressive, wants to go forward, or whether someone wants to be more conservative, meaning maintain the status quo. What happens, I believe, in these circumstances for a lot of white people whose dispositions are conservative personally is they see that they're scared of change. They see that the world is changing. They want to know the world that they know. But then it's brought to their attention, wait a minute, the world that you knew, that you think was so good, wasn't good for everyone. And in fact, you benefited in ways you didn't even realize maybe, at their expense, at the other people's expense. And the reaction to that, if it's guilt, can then turn into anger over the subject. And you can even think in your own personal life. Who do you get angry at in your family, your kid, your parent, whatever? When you see things in them that you really don't like about yourself, right? It can make you angry. And I think oftentimes the resistance we get from people who I won't just assume are racist, them forget about it, they're basket cases, right? I mean, people who maybe are swayable still, is they have to get over their conservative guilt.
I mean, I think we've fallen into his trap to some degree, because if Marty Smith didn't know who he was yesterday, he's probably a nobody in this world. And I suspect, or in the world of NASCAR, I suspect that he wanted this attention. He wants to send a message to a certain group. Maybe that's what he wanted to do. I feel like a bit have, but the quote that I wanted to bring attention to was him saying that it feels like you're effing one group to cater to another by banning this flag. So what were you doing before? By allowing the flag, weren't you doing the same thing? Like, I just don't understand him or anything that
well, you're allowed to do it to one group, Dominique.
Yeah, that seems clear to me. It's one group is fine.
Marty, I want to give you the last word here before we go to break.
That's right. Apparent.
I'll try to be succinct. I just want to say, too, that I am the small-town Southern man. I grew up in the rural South. I saw the Confederate flag growing up. And I will tell you that I have grown tremendously in my own awareness and knowledge of what my black friends see. I still can't see that. I can't look through that lens, but I can try over the last couple of weeks. And I'll tell you what I've thought about. My favorite show as a kid, and it still may be my favorite show now, was the Dukes of Hazzard. The iconic General Lee Dodge Charger car on that show has the rebel flag painted on top of that car. My entire life, I never even cared. Like it never registered with me that could be offensive to anyone. And that's born from my own upbringing and the ignorance of what it might mean to somebody else. And I have T-shirts now with that car on it and that flag on top of that car. So I'm going to try to gain experience and understanding about if I wore that shirt in public, would I be vilified, or would my empathy and compassion for other people be questioned? So there's a lot still to unpack.
Yeah.
And
it's a shirt,
I'm so
Marty. It's probably not
grateful
worth the risk,
to all
buddy.
three of you for giving me. Right. Right, bro. That's what I'm saying. These are things that have to be, that are being unpacked now, that maybe in the past they weren't. And I think that's extremely important that we're discussing these things. So thank you guys for the opportunity.
You're listening and you're learning. And Marty, I want to say this to you personally. I appreciate your candor this morning because I understand, I know how beloved you are amongst NASCAR fans, and I realize you have to go to these events and you might face some vitriol now. So I appreciate you being open to listening and learning and ultimately choosing humanity. Thank you so much for your time. And we're going to have much more on this later in the show, and I hope to talk to you soon. When we come back here on First Take, we're going to have
governor of Alabama has apologized on behalf of your home state, and the FBI is looking into the incident as well. So when you heard about it, what was your reaction to it? And I know your mom sort of said, hey, you don't have to take this. Tell me what happened to you.
Yeah, so I found out kind of later on Sunday evening that the hate crime had been committed in the garage by the president. President of NASCAR, Steve Phelps, had called me, and he the way he called me and his voice and his character at that moment, I didn't know what to expect. I was like, oh, what did I say in an interview? What did I do? What kind of trouble am I in?
Yeah.
And he comes to my motorhome. That's where we're only allowed. Drivers are only allowed to go straight to our motorhomes and hang out there because of COVID-19 and social distancing and stuff. So I was in my motorhome all day, and so he called and wanted to come over and talk face to face, and he had told me what had happened, and tears was in his eyes, flowing from him from the moment he stepped inside my motorhome to the time that he left. He was so upset. I didn't know what to say or what to do. I have never had that happen, and not being able to see it directly, I was just kind of thinking like, what, trying to process it all. And it's my dad had told me, he's like, you gotta, after the Confederate flag deal, he said, I'm proud of you, but I'm also worried about your safety, so you have to be careful. So this just shows just how much I have to watch my back, and he reiterated that on Sunday after I called him. So I called my mom first, called my dad, and we talked about it. And he again, said, got to watch your back. You got to keep your head on a swivel. And so that's just kind of how I went about it. Obviously, I was hurt. I was sad that people would go to those measures. I wouldn't say I'm shocked, because we see the stuff that goes on in the world. But just unfortunate that it happened to me, and my crew was able to see it and witness that. And it kind of took our mind off racing for a little bit. And so I guess it was kind of okay that we were put on a rain delay to go on and let us kind of refocus for Monday.
What did you think about all the stuff we saw yesterday at Talladega? Well, I think it's something to be appreciated. There's no question about that, considering the history of NASCAR as it pertains to African Americans and the absence of involvement on several levels. To see Bubba Wallace being supported by his contemporaries all around the sport was definitely something to behold. I watched Full Farm Bomb earlier. I definitely watched Marty Smith. They can chronicle the history of NASCAR. They can talk to you about how non-inclusionary the sport has been by and large, for the most part. The Confederate flag symbolizing what it symbolizes to African Americans in this nation, and the fact that a fan base, along with the sport itself, pretty much could give a damn for so many years about how African Americans felt about that, to go from what its history to be, at least to some degree, to what we witnessed yesterday was definitely something special, and it's something to be celebrated. And the flip side to that, however, is that you can't stop there. The reality is that it was a symbolic gesture, a profound symbolic gesture, but nonetheless, just a gesture. And the real work that comes into play is when we're going to witness and see how inclusionary the sport is, how many people it employs, its dealings with the black community, what it does to ingratiate itself with the black community instead of in terms of addressing some of the sensitivities evolving around the sport that has been decried for years. Those are the kind of things that I'm talking about, some symbolic gestures. I'm not trying to minimize the importance of it. I understand it has to start somewhere. That's an incredible way to start. We get all of that. But the flip side is, in terms of some real meat being added to the bone, in terms of things really getting done to address some of the systemic policies or some of the systemic tendencies that they've had in place for so many years. Let's see where they go from here. It was really nice to see everybody out there. Let's see what kind of contribution they make to the kind of things that I mentioned moving forward. That's when I'll stand up and applaud even more. For right now, I appreciate the symbolic gesture. Thank you. But I'm not going to throw a parade over it. Jay Williams, what do you think? Brady, is this a long-term game? Yes, it is. But my freshman year, Coach K used to always tell me things about, hey, look, you have to focus on the game within the game. This is a series of games, and you have to get a series of small wins that accumulate towards the bigger win. I think this was another win for NASCAR yesterday, and just in the way everything was handled, it's easy to conceal racism. It was easy for, NASCAR, when they found the news, when they took it to the president to say, hey, we want to conceal this. Instead of concealing it, they decided to open it up to everybody and combat that and talk about it openly. Even with, the sign flying, the Confederate flag, defund NASCAR, addressing that openly and combating that and openly talking about that. And watching Bubba yesterday, I'll tell you, I've had a lot of friends who are African American who are watching this, who are now becoming slow fans of NASCAR, and they want to see how things are progressing. So, I'm with Stephen A that there's still a long way to go, but I like what I am seeing right now, and I'm liking this community and people that are standing up for what's right. And the one thing I tweeted the other day is I said, look, if you have hate in your heart, I don't have time for you. The future is moving towards inclusion. Whew, what a day. First off, I don't know if anyone watched the race, but to see the whole sport together, pushing Bubba's car to the front, for the national anthem and standing around him was so emotional to see him and the way Bubba reacted, the way the fans here at Talladega reacted. The 5,000 fans that were here, they were all chanting Bubba, and just a real great expression of love. And that was really, really, really and fun to be a part of. Just showing support for one of our and just proud to be a part of that. As far as our race now, that went good to start, led a bunch of laps, got a lot of stage points, like a third and a
All of NASCAR's drivers have rallied around Bubba Wallace, the NASCAR Cup Series lone black driver, after what happened here yesterday afternoon. The drivers, led by reigning Cup Series champion Kyle Busch.
See right there, a lot of change, winds of change is coming, and Bubba Wallace, one of the supporters that supported the flag to be taken down, and deservedly so everyone get an equal shot. NASCAR wants to be inclusive, and this is the right way to start. So thank you all for watching this edition of Viral Race. Talk about Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace, the new folk hero. I believe he is. He's the new folk hero of NASCAR. I've been your host, Kendrick Dick, saying so long. See you next time for another edition of Viral.